Welcome to the Phantom Zone.
And welcome to And Now Comics. I am Lou Gonzalez. Joined with me is John Seiler.
Hi.
Connor Irving.
Hello.
And Ryan Fretz.
Greetings.
So mostly we have like a normal news week, only a couple little things on here. I guess the first one, there's like two of them that kind of connect. I will go through first. So apparently DC asked retailers to pull issue 33 of Supergirl and issue 14 of Superman from shelves. And then if you're able to get those copies, they're going for $40 to $50 on eBay right now. And so DC said the reason they pulled them is because they erroneously had the like Year of the Villain Dark Gifts like label on the covers, and they shouldn't have. And
because the only hot comics right now are comics that are like have like some kind of
tie-in.
like not tie-in, but it's just like speculator market.
Oh yes. The other thing though is that there is a possibility, which Newsarama, that's the last article I posted, says it might actually have to do with, because the other part of them is that they had like a preview for Legion, like Legion of Superheroes, and that's the reason why it got pulled, which in some ways makes more sense because I believe the Superman book is directly tied in to the Year of the Villain stuff because Lex is on the cover. So I don't know. It is interesting, and it goes more to like what you brought up before, John, about like the kind of speculator market has been really gross. We talked about the whole Naomi thing.
It's been particularly gross recently. Like I feel like it's been like, I don't know, is it like it's this arms race for speculators to pick up books for the sole reason that a new character shows up within a book, and it's like, oh, like, hold on, first appearance, hold on to it for a couple years, hopefully they show up in a movie, and then you sell it. And it's just like, it's so gross. These people like don't want to buy comics because they love the story or love the art, love the creators. It's just like they want to buy it to make a quick buck. But these are also the same people who complain about change in comics. So it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like a wonky story. It's more interesting to me if it's like the why it got pulled aspect of it. It sucks that they're selling for that much, but if it has to do with the Legion of Superheroes, that would be interesting because they've been teased a lot in a lot of the books recently. But yeah, it'll be kind of interesting to see what the reasons behind all this is. The other story, which is interesting, is like we've talked about like the Marvel podcast before. So we had the first Wolverine one. There's the second one is out now. So they just announced they're doing a third one based on Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross's Marvel's story. And then the big headline is that the main, I guess one of the voice cast is Method Man, who will be voicing as Ben Urich.
Or Ben Urich, yeah.
Yeah. None of the other names, like, I didn't know offhand, but like that's an interesting take on Ben Urich. I've seen Method Man in movies and stuff, and like I'm actually a fan of the Wu-Tang, having like been born in Staten Island and stuff. So like,
woo.
Yeah, Shaolin. I don't know if he's the voice. Method Man is definitely not the voice in my head for Ben Urich, but those guys like are very famously like super comic book nerds. If you listen to like old school Wu-Tang, there's like a bunch of there's like stuff about Iron Man and all sorts of stuff. They were like super nerdy. That's where their name, like all their stuff is off to like old kung fu flicks.
Yeah, so Enter the 36th Chamber is just full of samples of old kung fu movies. It's awesome.
So like all those guys, there's a lot of those like old school New York kind of rappers that are like that, because what's his name is also a big comic book guy from Run DMC, DMC Daryl. He's a big comic book guy too. So it is interesting. I'm glad like this kind of new wave of audio dramas coming back in like podcast form is like really cool.
Yeah, and I forget what the new Wolverine. I think it's called
Long Winter, if I remember correctly.
No, the first one was Long Night. This one is.
I have it like on my phone.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it to be finished, and then I'm gonna just listen to the whole thing.
The Lost Trail.
Oh, yes.
And it's fine, there was like one segment in the last episode that delves into like going into Wolverine's memories, and then this big fight kind of happens, and it's just very hard to kind of figure out like what's going on.
Yeah,
So
and we talked about it in the first one too. Like the first one ends so like abruptly.
Yeah, and this one's like not bad. They kind of spoil some things within the credits of the podcast because they're like, they list all the different actors and actresses who voiced the characters, but then they
So
also
reveal a character.
they reveal like characters who are showing up in the series who haven't been like introduced
Appeared.
yet.
Oh.
So I'm like, oh hey, like this character definitely shows up. This character definitely shows up. And it's like not bad. I don't think it's as good as the first Wolverine so far, but but like I think the concept of this is good. My hope was that they would continue with this and doing stuff that wasn't just Wolverine. Like I've said in the past, I think
Yeah,
Moon
which
Knight would
this
be
is
really
like a
cool.
and
I
this,
think
this is far from Wolverine.
yeah, like I think Ghost Rider would be super cool, but and I'm not like a Marvel's guy. I've read Kingdom Come. I thought it was okay, but it's like that concept, but for Marvel comics, like this didn't really like light my world on fire. But I definitely would listen to this.
Like I feel like the character for me that I would love to hear is Jessica Jones. Like I feel like she's perfect for that noir type radio drama.
Yeah, give me like her recordings as she's following a perp or something.
Yeah, or like her notes.
Yeah.
My idea for Moon Knight and Ghost Rider is, since it's an audio drama, it's like you could have Johnny Blaze, be one actor and then have his voice modified when Zarathos is talking to him. Or you could even do the same with like Venom, like all those characters who have like a dual personality type, or like two people within one. Like you can do that in like an audio medium. I feel like in a really cool way.
I'm surprised they haven't done a Deadpool one with like 5 different people doing voices.
We've got enough Deadpool.
Yeah, I know.
Don't give them any.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it news-wise. Oh, what you just here?
The big news today was Marvel announced a couple new books. Some of them I don't think sound very good, like they're like Scream or Morbius. But the big book I feel like they announced today was that there's going to be a new Deadpool ongoing with Kelly Thompson writing and Chris Bachalo as the artist.
Yeah, I remember we talked about this book because he was removed, and we just had the image of the throne, and that's revealed to be Deadpool. That's kind of a letdown for me, as we just said. Like, there's so much Deadpool out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not like a Deadpool guy per se, but this is probably the most interested I've been in wanting to read a Deadpool comic since Brian Posehn, Jerry Dugan, and Terry Moore did that first arc of Deadpool years ago.
Yeah, I actually have all of those on.
And oddly enough, that first arc is Deadpool fighting giant monsters, and this first arc is him going to kill the king of the monsters.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I was kind of hoping that like this big book would be somebody else, but the creative team is good, and like as long as it does something like new that's interesting. Scream, I could give a shit about.
I like the new Carnage run. Like I just picked up Curse of Carnage last week, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, have we talked about Absolute Carnage? Because I'm not reading it, but
I think we brought it up at one point as a book coming out, and everyone was like, "Does anybody care?" And I guess Connor, you were on that episode. We were all like, no.
Yes, I will always be the one. I picked it up and it's huge. It's like 60 something pages.
Wow.
It looks really good too. It deals with like Carnage being like it deals with the Donny Cates Venom book that ended a while ago, where Brock kind of loses his symbiote, and through some mishaps he actually finds out he has a son. And this son he's lying to and saying he's like his older brother, and he's taking him around New York trying to keep him safe while like these otherworldly symbiotes are traveling around and collecting all these other pieces of DNA to make some bullshit to bring a god back. Regular world-ending stuff. But it deals with like Carnage's symbiote is possessing Cletus Cassidy's dead body, and Carnage's symbiote is going around like causing chaos, and it's leading towards like
Are they leading to a time like when Eddie's going to take on the Carnage symbiote?
Actually, he does, and he loses.
He actually wears it?
Yeah, he manages to get his symbiote back. Venom comes back, like repaired through some magic mumbo jumbo, and he teams up with Spider-Man. It's in a really cool panel. Like Eddie walks up and he knocks on Peter's door, and Miles is there, and he's like, "No, I'm not dealing with this," and he just turns around and walks away.
That is actually something I'm surprised they haven't done, is thrown a symbiote at Miles.
He literally sees this and he's like, "This is Peter's problem," and he just turns around and screams. If I had the book with me, I'd take a photo of it.
That's actually great, because I feel like that would really like jack up that character if they did that.
Yeah, if they did like a symbiote arc for him.
Mm-hmm.
But they kind of deal with eventually going to go defend the Osborn. Which Osborn's the younger one again? I always forget.
Norman?
Norman.
Harry.
They go to defend Harry in prison because he was taken over by the Carnage suit at one point, and he like used it to become the Red Goblin, and it drove him insane, and he thinks he's Cassidy, so it ends up with like the symbiote or Carnage's symbiote actually leaving his body and taking over Harry Osborn and creating like this new Cletus Cassidy hybrid, and that's where it like ends cut frame.
Wow.
It's very cool. I like it. I'll probably at least buy the main arcs. I do know Miles Morales does get wrapped up into this because there is like a Miles Morales Spider-Man Wrath of Carnage run. So I might actually pick that up and see what they do with it.
Okay. I'm going to add one more story because I clicked the on there. Mm-hmm. So this is weird, but it makes sense because of the parent company. So ESPN is doing basically their 6th season of having college football with doing like a 3 commemorative book covers for I guess a big game that they have. Like some game. I'm not a college football fan, but I'm a sports fan. But like they are putting the Hurricanes and the Gators, which are 2 teams that suck now. But it's like homages to the Incredible Hulk and Mighty Thor covers. Mm-hmm. It's just interesting that I feel like it's taken a really long time, but now we're actually seeing Disney kind of use one thing they own to help another thing they own.
Sports can't be free of superhero influence.
Yeah, I think I actually wonder, I'm like, I feel like it's actually the football, like the ESPN side trying to help the comic book side, because although Marvel's been doing better recently, like it's been winning, like comic book sales in general have like slumped a bit from what I remember. But it is interesting. If I cared about either of these teams or college football, they would be interesting. Because they do look funny. Like the covers, they're very old school. Like I was saying before we started recording, I picked up that X-Force comic that's like very 90s retro, which was hilarious with all the ads in it. Because basically, isn't like every X book has to tie into like House and Power that's coming out?
That's from what I've heard, that's how it's supposed to go.
All right. I'm sorry, John. What is the thing you just posted here?
I felt like it was like a little like I know that we were going to stay away from movie news, but I feel like this was like so kind of big that I feel like we should probably touch on a couple of these. Is that Disney this week scrapped a bunch of Fox projects?
Like a lot.
So of like the ones that weren't scrapped, they're like kind of still on the docket. That are like semi-comics related. Like Bob's Burgers movie, Garfield reboot, I guess was in the works. Like Nimona, which was
didn't we just talk about that Garfield just got sold to Nickelodeon?
Yeah, and so I guess like while Garfield got sold, like there was a planned animated reboot in the works. So that's the first I've heard of it. But Nimona was a comic or animated movie based off the Noel Silverstein comic I really love. And there's like a bunch of other stuff here, but like the ones that were canceled that are, kind of big, or Assassin's Creed 2.
That was going to happen?
I guess so. The Taika Waititi Flash Gordon movie.
He has a lot on his plate though, because
totally. But and that was like one they announced like a couple months ago.
In regards to him, there was actually like questioning him as like that Hitler movie he has coming out, and they were like debating if they were gonna like distance themselves for that.
I think it'll probably be fine since he's not white. Like, it's a weird area to get into, but like,
Yeah, but
the fact
he's
that he-
like dressed as Hitler throughout like, the entire movie.
but it's like
Yeah,
it's making
it's-
fun of it though.
it's really funny because every once
Yeah.
in a while we have people who show up in our Discord, and it's like, Hollywood and just media is just so soft now. Like they would never release like a Mel Brooks movie, which is like I feel like on the gravestone of like like all these like people. It's like also it's like, well, people like George Carlin couldn't make jokes like George Carlin anymore. I'm like, well, you know what? George Carlin would also just like tell you to like shut the fuck up. But that's besides the point. And then like the Jojo Rabbit trailer dropped, and then I did like the SpongeBob meme of like Hollywood not make a movie like Mel Brooks anymore.
There are some movies on this list that I'm confused about. Like even weirder that they were going to do Assassin's Creed Chronicle 2
Yep.
with
Yeah.
a giant fucking question mark.
Well, there's probably good reasons that got canned
Yeah.
recently.
I would like to know at some point, like, because I feel like some of these were either contractual, some of them
Yeah.
might have been on very early planning stages, some of them
Yeah,
might have been like, who
Hitman
knows?
2, is it supposed to be a sequel to the first one or the
Yes.
second one?
The
I mean,
second
it
one.
says right there, sequel to Hitman.
So the first one, not the Agent 47.
It would be a sequel to Agent
Yes.
47, which was the last one that came out.
Hmm
Okay. And then
But Magic the Gathering, I
oh,
kind of
no,
felt like that.
there was a remake. They wanted
That
to do
would've
a
been
remake of
crazy.
Commando.
Yep.
What?
Why
Why?
I mean, it's a property that they had in their back pocket that they like. There's a
I remember this one.
John-
McClane.
there's the John McClane origin story.
Oh my
Oh,
god!
no.
I remember hearing about that and being like, "Why does anybody think this is a good idea?"
God, and that last Die Hard movie was so bad. Like
You're
I was like,
talking about the one with Justin Long?
Yeah, Good Day to Die in
No.
Russia or whatever.
No, because that was the last one they did. As far
No.
as I
Nope.
no,
The
that was the last one they did. No, that's the last one. They
Oh, I
did.
see. We're doing a bit here. Yeah, because but yeah, I thought Live Free or Die Hard was like not bad, but
No,
like
the Free
Yeah.
Die Hard again, connecting it to the agent to Hitman. It's the only font is in that. And
but yeah,
I love
Came around,
everything
out
he
around the
does.
same time.
Yeah.
Mega
You're
Man
fine.
was on the.
Mega
on-
Man, that would I don't know because it's kind of like they did that Astro Boy movie like a decade ago, maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah, I
know
love Mega Man.
I know it's not the same thing, but like I feel like it would fall into the same kind of thing.
I love Mega Man. I think I could. I think there's a really cool way you could do Mega Man.
Oh,
But-
wait. There's like 2 or 3 other things in here. So, another League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yep.
I don't think they're ever going to remake that because I think that most people have no idea who the characters are in it, and they can't do anything close to or like a real adaptation because it's too fucked up. But the ones that are crazy on here is the Pink Panther, another remake of it. Well, I guess it's an animated one.
Mhm.
Which
they were-
I don't know anyone who would care about an animated Pink Panther in at least like 2021.
And what about The Sims?
Okay,
As in-
thank you. I was just about to bring that up myself.
How-
'cause, like,
how?
There's a Play-Doh movie here also.
So the Play-Doh movie and The Sims, I feel like are they made like 3 Lego movies or 4 Lego movies at this
Yeah.
point. Like, can we do this?
The
don't know.
Sims probably would be like you just basically see them living their lives, and then it's gonna be like basically the same as a Lego movie when someone doesn't want to
Whoa.
do what they were
There was-
born to do.
There was a reboot of Small Soldiers in here.
Wait, what?
yeah,
Where's
Toy
that?
Mageddon.
Toy Mageddon.
I
Oh my
saw-
god!
Small Soldiers is amazing. Oh, it was gonna be directed by Justin Lin. Holy shit! I'm so disappointed.
There was a sequel to Killer Clowns in Outer Space from the original director, Killer Clowns
Oh
in
my
Outer
god!
Space.
Some
But
of
in
these untitled
3D.
ones are so weird. See, it's like The Great Escape, but with babies.
A group of infants hatch a great escape plan to break free from their daycare center. I think that's just Rugrats.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
a Boss Baby. Like-
Boss Baby's not.
I haven't
quite
seen
that.
Boss Baby, but like, wait, this last one, directed by Ben Affleck, the true story of the head of security for McDonald's monopoly stealing a winning ticket and selling them to the highest bidder.
Yeah, that's actually like a story I've heard about. And
Oh, I've heard
Like-
of that story. That'd be
Mhm.
really interesting. And directed by Affleck. That's kind of would have been a real interesting film. But man, some of these are what the
Oh,
fuck
dude,
were they thinking?
you can then go like that is just kind of a fun little list of some of the bigger names. Then you can go in and just see the names and what they had done, and just some of the names like kindergarten heroes.
Oh my god.
What? Yeah, well,
Yeah. All right. Well, this is interesting. So why don't we?
it's a little
I think
rabbit hole you could fall down.
I think
Yeah.
like there are like one thing I really love about like YouTube are like the channels that cover unmade projects, and I think that all those channels I follow just had like a heap of like new content they could do for like the next like 2 or 3 years, where
Oh.
information about all these projects just start
Dude,
coming out.
one of my favorite things ever that I watched was The Death of Superman Lives. Is an
Yeah.
amazing doc. And then the guy passed away like a year or two ago that made that.
Mhm. I believe it was last year.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
that is amazing. If you don't know, it's a doc on the Superman movie that was Tim Burton starring Nicolas Cage that never happened. And I actually watching it, I was like, oh, this could have really worked. Like as dumb as it sounds, like actually seeing the special effects stuff, I was like, oh, they were going for something here that we've never seen with Superman.
Okay.
Because he had like from what I remember from watching it, they had like 5 different suits he was gonna wear.
5.
And like 4 or 5, yeah.
Damn.
He was gonna wear his regular thing, he was gonna get injured, he was gonna be put into like a Kryptonian like Bacta tank thing, like that, like a machine that would repair him. So that would be a second suit where it was like all this like glowing stuff, and then it eventually would turn into the black suit, and then he would get like a final suit at the end.
Rad.
And they were working like all the stuff that they show, like so the first image, like the one that everyone shows with like Nick Cage is wearing like a blue and like a normal Superman costume, that was going to be the starting point. And they were going to give Superman the mullet that he had in the 90s. Like they were going full force. So basically Batman and Robin sucking so goddamn hard killed that movie. And they were supposed to do like a Nightwing spinoff too after Batman and Robin. And that Steel movie with Shaq was supposed to also be in the same universe.
Christ.
Yeah, there was like a legit, like Warner Brothers had like a DCU being built, and that movie, Joel Schumacher just destroyed that entire universe.
Ugh. Absolute shame.
But also, there was lots of other production stuff because that movie went through like 7 different writers, including Kevin Smith. And then when it finally went to Tim Burton taking over, they had a lot of problems because they go into the whole John Peters of it all, which if you don't know about him, you can just listen to anything. Like Kevin Smith's talked about on like 15 different things, his interactions with John Peters, who's like one of the strangest beings in Hollywood. But should we talk about House of X and Power of 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, and spoilers for people.
Yeah, mega spoilers.
Oh, for sure.
I would say skip 15 minutes, 20 minutes if you don't want to hear spoilers. So to say we're going to start with House of X, I would say, because that came out first.
Yeah.
And that's the more major spoilery one, I would say, too, of the pair. So
Yeah, it lays the framework, sure.
I would just say,
I mean, it definitely puts into perspective that first issue.
yes.
Yeah.
And I think it puts in perspective this entire run as a kind of, to me at least, I read it as a reboot of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think it's an interesting way to kind of explain all the different dumb X stuff that has happened over the several, like I guess this entire run in many ways from
Yeah,
the
the
jump.
last like 50 of
Yeah.
X-Men.
And I loved what Hickman did with it too.
Okay, so it's basically revealed that not only is Moira McTaggart a mutant, but Moira McTaggart's mutant power is what's like the word for, like, it's not resurrection, reincarnation.
Yeah.
She basically
So-
gets to live her life exact with all the memories of every previous life from pre-birth, like while she's like once she's conceived to the moment of death.
So she has 12 lives also,
At this point,
like give or take.
Mhm.
And so she lives her life, like her first life, she lives like a full, long, healthy life.
like normal life, she gets married, she has kids, blah blah blah, and then she dies when she's super old.
Yeah, and so then her second life starts, and it's like, you know, and it goes like the way that you would assume like her life would have gone within modern day, within the 50s, where she
Well,
and then she
the main part of it is she realizes that she has the memories, and then the idea is that like trying to think of the phrase they use, where it's like because she like lived her life already, like she's not as in love with her husband, and so like that is where the major deviation takes place, is that she does not get married to her husband. And then I can't remember, the second life is where, so in the first one she meets Xavier kind of fleetingly, and the second one she kind of has a better, like, longer meeting with him, but still doesn't really care for it.
But it's like a final destination thing where it's like
Yes.
like she dies and then she like restarts, like, and she remembers everything while being like while being inside, you know, of a pregnant woman.
Mm-hmm. And so they actually show that this is how we have like that original X-Men team, then like the 90s team, and then they show like the Phoenix Force team. Like they're kind of explaining like, oh, the reason everything keeps changing is her going back and like choosing different paths.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm trying to remember, I think her third path, her second or third path is where she finds the cure for mutants.
Her
And
second
she's-
path.
It's a second path
No,
where she met by
because it's
Mystique.
it's a
and-
little bit later.
Yeah, sorry.
It's like
And
The
then-
second path
it's
is when
like
she
the
dies
fourth-
on the plane.
Like there's something that happens between like the fifth, like I think it's like the fifth or seventh plan, because like there's also we don't know about her sixth path, and then she
her
has like
sixth path is blank.
and there's
I'm looking at the map thing now on my computer.
oh well yeah, it's blank because you know that's going to be like something that's going to be massively revealed some later at some
Yes.
point. But like she basically has like this big, you know, conversation while she's, you know, well, you know, it's like in the timeline where she's discovered the mutant cure, all of her colleagues are killed, and she's basically put at gunpoint by Sabretooth, Mystique, and a still alive Destiny, which I feel is very important.
Yes.
And
Okay, so to the second life she dies in the plane crash. Her third life is the one where she gets killed by like Destiny and them.
Mm-hmm.
and so then and Destiny basically breaks down like everything that's like, you know, that she knows she's lived multiple lives, like this is her power, like this is how many, you know, resets you have.
Yeah. She basically says there are two sides of the same coin in many ways.
And like
They're
low-key, like Destiny is like one of my favorite mutants, and I'm really glad she showed up in this.
Yeah, her design
generally-
is so cool.
Yeah. So then after she gets killed there, because they're like Mystique's like, or they say basically like make sure like it takes a long time so she knows how bad this death will be.
Just
Yeah.
incinerates her with
Oh,
pyro.
gnarly.
Yeah. Her fourth life is where she goes and meets. She like jumps early. She still goes to Oxford, but this is when she meets. Like she gets close to Xavier and falls in love with him, and they get married. They have their kid. They establish the school, and then she gets killed by the Sentinels when she's 50. The fifth life is they create the mutant nation of Faraway, and then are killed. She gets put in a coma from the Sentinels, and then the Sentinels then kill everybody on Faraway. Then we don't know the sixth path. The seventh path is when she joins that like military group, and she tries to kill all the Trasks, which then she basically realizes, oh, even if you kill all the Trasks, just someone else will end up making the Sentinels, and thus Master Mold will be created.
Yeah.
The eighth path is Moira rejects Xavier. She joins Magneto. Magneto conquers America, and then he ends up. He gets captured, and then Moira's in prison, and she gets killed in an escape attempt. The eighth path, she decides to try to join. She joins Apocalypse and creates her own X-Men. And Apocalypse captures Sinister, and then we don't know how that ends. And then the ninth path is where is like the kind of previous path, the last one before now, which is like the Genosha stuff. And I guess is she supposed to be 52 for House of X?
So
And that's
go
our
with
current path?
so to go into power, there's that we have year one of X-Men, year 10, year 100, year 1000. Year 1000, where Nimrod has kind of taken over, and then there's that group of X-Men that are led by Apocalypse. I think we're to assume that the future where Moira teams up with Apocalypse is year 100.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah, I think that's the year 100. And I think because in this new continuity for House of X, she takes Xavier to meet Magneto at year 1. So she like basically tells Xavier from what we saw in the first issue, and like is like, all right, we're gonna skip all this shit. You and Magneto are gonna do all this, because then he shares in powers a power of 10. He connects Xavier to all of her memories, or Magneto, and I guess that is our origin for how House of X starts. But like on the
That's what I took
timeline,
as.
yeah, on the timeline though, it shows as I'm gonna put it in that they have memories of each. Like it seems like our current X universe is this her last life, and it takes the stuff from Genosha, and kind of that's it. And in this world, Moira has had her son Proteus as well.
Yeah. Also, Protea. So we find out that Moira's a mutant and she can relive like through reincarnation. I think that, and then we also look back in the first issue with all of the Omega level mutants, and of the ones who are not currently on Krakoa, Proteus is not there. So I feel like
it's Proteus is there, Legion is
Oh.
not there. Of the two Xavier kids, Proteus is part of it. Legion is not.
Oh, I had it the other way. I thought Legion was on the island.
Yeah, I can double check. Let me. I'm gonna look it up right now. I'm pretty sure. I think I had said it wrong last week, but I'm pretty.
Yeah, because I think we actually had this exact conversation last week, if I remember, or the week prior.
What else? Yeah, and then there's like that conversation from Power where Moira, no, it's Xavier and Cyclops. It's like 10 years into Krakoa, and there's that discussion about Mother Mold that is basically a sentinel that makes master molds that's being developed in space, and that's like what was referenced in the first issue. So at least that kind of puts into perspective of the time frame in House of X where this takes place.
John, you said it last week, I think, because you were looking at issue 2 ahead of us, and you mentioned that this is one of the stories that, as you kind of go through it, you'll be looking in the previous issues and trying to piece things together, and you're 100% right, because now things are starting to line up and the timelines are now starting
merged together.
Exactly, makes sense. Like reading Powers, the first issue, even after the first issue of House, makes no sense, and only a little bit, especially for someone like me who's not very familiar with the X-Men and Nimrod and all these names. And now it's all starting to come together and make a bigger picture. Why they were teasing Master Mold and everything. It's very fun.
Yeah, well, and like the idea of the Mother Mold, and it's to make other Master Molds.
It's a plot line out of like a Golden Age X-Men comic. You good, Lou?
Yeah. I was just like trying to hear where you guys were at. So yeah, like when they said that about the Mother Mold thing, I was like, oh shit, because it's kind of, I'm trying to think, it ties into what we see with like the human robot stuff. So basically, like the creation of the Mother Mold is like creating Skynet, I think.
That's the best analogy you can like hope for in that situation. So that's because in issue 2 of Powers, they're like all the human scientists are in space right now, built in the giant like Sentinel head, and they're all opposed to each other, but they're coming together against the mutants.
Like,
we can outlet. Yeah,
to the point that even in like the in the issue that came out this week, Cyclops and Xavier are talking about like, they're like, oh yeah, it's like this scientist conclave, and they're even just biting their lip, and they're in such a position that they're even asking Hydra for help.
Yeah. Now, in Powers, the one part that got me super confused, which is probably the same way. So when we jump to what is it, like year 1000?
Yeah.
So this whole Nimbus thing and creating this like I don't know I don't get this. Like it's so over my head.
I have no idea. I feel like we won't know for at least a couple more issues really how 1,000 years in the future really affects like everything here, because I think we have a handle on 1, 10, and 100, but it's 1,000 we still don't know about, and I think that's fine.
Looking at Powers of X issue 2, I am completely in agreement with you that I think year 100, I would put year 1000 are that Apocalypse timeline. Because it seems like Year 100 and Year 1000 are tied in together.
1000, like the last few panels of that book. Apocalypse is around the same timeline as the mutants that are like the Groot looking one, as well as like Rasputin.
He's in that timeline. Oh, and that one guy is Zorn. We get that confirmed. But the other one,
Yeah, who's Zorn? Sorry.
Zorn is the one that we talked about. That is like he could like at one point he was Magneto when it was Grant Morrison, and then they made it these two brothers, and one has a black hole on his head, and one has a sun. So, but the tree guy, he says some interesting lines because he says, "This body once belonged to a mutant who could communicate with anything." I'm guessing that is actually Proteus inside of another mutant. But like, what mutant could talk to anything?
What was that technologic guy?
Forge.
Forge?
Yeah.
Well, Forge's mutant power is he can just like make anything.
He can reverse engineer anything, I think.
Actually, how was the way that you described it? That he could communicate with anything?
Yes.
That's Cypher. Like Cypher's whole deal is that he can he knows like all languages. Like he knows binary, he knows every alien language, he knows Braille, like anything that's a language, like he knows it.
So I'm guessing because if it's somebody talking about how this isn't their body, that makes, and with the mention of like kind of some teases of Proteus, like Proteus is like he's like a virus, like that's his thing. He jumps from body to body.
Yeah, that actually also makes sense.
So it could be Cypher, and then his body is like rebuilt because it's like kind of plant like. Maybe Krakoa like have rebuilt it at some point, but it's actually Proteus inside.
He could have jumped in Krakoa itself, like the plants, and then just like
that would be really interesting. Oh, and we did find out what exactly. So what Mystique and Sabretooth stole was information on the mother
mold.
The mother mold. The other timeline, we found out that what they stole was like a node for something to find out something else.
Index node.
Yes.
They're looking for Genesis information.
I think to restart the cloning of people.
It's that, or I think they're starting the research towards the final time.
Right,
which would then tie into 100, where you have like all the Sinister clones.
Yeah, so I'm looking through House 1. There is a panel, I don't know, page 32, when they're talking about like, oh, they put stuff here. It is what appears to be both Zorns sitting next to each other.
Really? Both
yeah.
Zorns? Yeah, some stuff's going on. We still obviously don't have the full picture.
Which I thought one of them was that it's that second panel. Because it's the Firehead one that we see in Year 100, but the other guy's definitely wearing the Zorn mask as well.
Yeah, interesting.
That information they were looking for was because I'm reading the panel right now after they get into like the flash drive, and the little panel on the like the computer screen, it's like Genesis protocols versions Nimrod. So they could be trying to like find ways to hack inside of like the Sentinel program.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it, it's just like the node and a bunch of code, and then it's like Genesis protocols version Nimrod.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I finally found the page. So yeah, Proteus is on Krakoa and his brother Legion is not.
Yeah, because I remember having this conversation once before.
Yeah, which is interesting because they're like two. I don't even like.
They're Omega.
They're Omega level, but they're kind of past Omega level because Proteus is basically immortal as long as he has like a host to like attach himself to, and Legion is.
I'm not too sure what Legion's powers are. They're just like
everything.
Yeah.
And like the last time Legion was seen was when Nate Gray came back, and I think it was Uncanny or
it was Age of X.
Age of X.
Yeah,
okay.
Legion's power is that he has like he can basically like call upon like a lot of different power sets, but he has no control over the personalities that those powers are like attached to.
If you've watched Doom Patrol, he's basically Crazy Jane except way more powerful.
Think of like Rogue, but except like touching, it's just at any time and random.
Crazy Jane's actually a very apt description.
Yeah, because he has absolutely no control, especially like not the TV version is completely different. Like the comic version, each personality has its own power set, but
Mhm.
which one comes out and what they want to do is completely random and independent.
Okay.
Well, his base self was just like telekinetic, and
Yes, but he's like the most powerful telekinetic
yeah.
being. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, it got more intriguing with these two issues, and then when I was looking at the reading list, Powers 3 comes out next week, and then House of X 3 comes out the week after that. So they flip flop.
Yeah, and
Question.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, and I feel like I'm a little bit more. Powers, I feel like, is set piece, and House is where you get the payoff at so far.
Yes, House is definitely the real story, and then Powers is like, I'm trying to
It's
think of
the
it, like
index.
world
It gives
building.
you all the yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think you don't need to read Powers to like really get this story, but it makes like it's
It
a
helps.
bunch of it helps. So
The year 1000 is where like a little kid is with that little flying drone, and
Yeah,
year
like the
100 was the one with Apocalypse, correct?
yes, so year 0 is before the X-Men. Year 10 is X-Men. Year 100 is the Apocalypse, Magneto, Wolverine, Zorn, the like Nightcrawler red guy, and the Rasputin thing. In year 1000 with that's also Nimrod with like the humans. That's the same year as Apocalypse. Like the Nimrod walking around and he has like the red bald-headed woman. Then
Was
the year
that 100?
Yes, the year 1000 is when it's like the blue bald-headed person, and there's like a little floating ghost, like in
That's your Destiny Ghost.
the Destiny Ghost.
Actually
that
think
is Nimrod. That's year 1000.
Yeah, I actually think that's like Apocalypse now. Like with like after like taking over Nimrod with those codes.
Yeah,
that became
that would
Are we
make a
talking
lot
about-
of sense.
Are you talking about Francis Ford Coppola?
Mm.
Yeah.
Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know
appreciate
what you
that.
mean, Ryan. The bald woman or the bald-looking person that looks like a kid.
Yeah, the little bald kid. Yeah.
But they actually show that there's a bunch of these bald people. But yeah, they do kind of look like they could be related to Apocalypse with them being blue and stuff.
It'd be really funny if one of them's Moira.
She made it.
Yeah. Well, basically, what Destiny said is she will continuously be immortal unless somebody kills her before her mutant gene activates. So, unless she dies when she's like a preteen or before she's.
That could be year 6. Like she just.
Well, no, then she wouldn't be able to resurrect in year 7, 8, and 9. Like in life 7, 8, 9. So, because Destiny's basically like, yeah, you'll get like 10 or 11. But she's like, what do you mean? Like, well, and she basically says that, like, yeah, if you get killed before your mutant gene activates, then you won't resurrect.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So she's basically a person that can live in tangent universes and has memory of all the tangent universes, but can also create her memory of them allows her to create the divergence. I don't know why, but anytime I think about like tangent universes, I always just go back to like Donnie Darko, and it's actually very similar to that in many ways, like how they're doing Moira's thing. So yeah, is there anything else we want to talk about with House and Powers besides how like mind blowing like and I feel like this is the most Morrison thing that's not written by Morrison.
Yeah, I was gonna say that because it's super heady and surreal. Like it's really asking you to like take on these esoteric concepts that you don't really know what they're talking about, like type 1, type 2, and type 3 civilizations.
Oh my god, reading that stuff, I was just like, I don't like. This is like the science I don't like. I don't like this math.
It means nothing, and I love it. I love all this just stupid mumbo jumbo.
So was it confirmed if the Wolverine was Logan like in year like 1000 or was that year 100? Well, year 100.
Yeah,
because he can reach that long in age, but like I don't know because the old man Logan wasn't that far off.
If Magneto is there, how far in the future could this be?
Yeah.
Well, is that Magneto?
They refer to him as that, don't they?
No, they don't really say his name.
Oh, so it could be just somebody wearing his costume?
Mm-hmm.
Well, his helmet, because like it does protect from like all kinds of attacks.
Yeah, you're right. It could be somebody else. It's definitely somebody. It's a man.
Yeah, he's not really floating around like Magneto usually does, because he just floats around. He just like he doesn't usually just stand there. He'll like float or hover like he usually does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. He's not really in this issue that much.
No, but he never really speaks either.
No, yeah, he doesn't speak in this one. It's all Apocalypse, Wolverine, which we get the name for those two characters. They're Cardinal Rasputin, and then the other two were Slibble and Percival. And then, Yeah, we get the one they refer to as Zorn, and then the plant guy never gets shown. Yeah, Magneto, or at least he says like one thing. Yeah, they don't really say, and he's not floating around, he's walking. And it appears he has a goatee of some sort or a beard.
Yeah, and the helmet and like his costume are like a different color than like what Magneto had in like the earlier panels.
He's green.
Yeah.
So he could, yeah, it could be somebody else. I don't know what character would wear his garments.
Because year 100, that would be, it's like 100 years like after like the basic timeline, right?
Well, that's something we don't really know because we just know that this is like year 0, 10, 100.
10 is when the X-Men are created in all of them, it seems. So year 100 would be 90 years after that.
Because Magneto doesn't really have like extended life. The only character that would like live that long would be like Wolverine.
Well, he's already like 100 plus years old in mainline.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen under the helmet to see if it is actually Magneto.
No, I feel like that's one of those pivotal moments.
Yeah, somebody removing the helmet.
Yeah, like turning the camera around and seeing Apocalypse there was, oh, this is interesting. Okay.
Well, of course, Apocalypse was still going to be around because like he can't have like a big X-Men story and not reference or see like Apocalypse.
It could be Moira under the helmet.
That's a good point. It could.
That's kind of like buff to be like Moira,
or it could be Sinister.
Sinister, I don't know, because he doesn't usually do facial hair.
I'm trying to look back at the first issue and see if there's like, if we see anything.
But who knows? I guess we'll just have to wait for the next issue.
Next week's.
See
the other side of his helmet.
Yeah.
It's all shaded out.
So in the first issue, we do see a glance. It is a guy with a white mustache and a white beard.
Okay. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it could be anyone. How old would Quicksilver be at this point?
That's a good, but he really wouldn't wear a cape since it would like mess with his like speed.
Yeah.
It is. There's a specific reason why speedsters don't really wear capes.
Or he could be like Magneto's grandson. It could be like maybe it's Polaris's son, and that's why he's wearing green.
That could be it. That's a lot of sense right there.
Whoever it is old.
Because I would say that seems to be based on proportions and everything. Definitely Wolverine.
Well, I think who said it was Franklin Richards last? Because that's still.
Oh yeah, maybe John said that.
Yeah, I think John said.
Well, I said that he's someone who can manipulate, time and space, and he is like also supplanted as like, being brought up within that Fantastic Four scene, and that that's like Chekhov's gun. You don't leave a Franklin Richards on the table unless you're going to use him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's basically known in all things that Franklin's also someone that's kind of immortal in many ways. Because he's always like the last living being of the universe in like most things when they go like super far into the future. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see like what they end up doing. Connor, did you want to talk about last night, issue 2?
Yeah, man, I have no idea what the fuck the ending meant. I don't have the book in front of me, and
classic. Power?
Oh no, not to Power.
No.
To Last Night on Earth.
The Batman Black Label book, where it's like the
Batman label book.
Yes.
Mad Max, but Batman.
Yes, because there was like
Mad Bat.
Capullo and Snyder teamed up once more. One of my favorite crews. So it kind of deals with Batman searching for Superman, obviously, and he goes to the Fortress of Solitude and he finds, well, not Superman. Well, kind of Superman. He finds a lot of Superman, actually. Yeah,
it's all of the robots that Superman built to kind of like help stuff, but they are also doing a bunch of other interesting things, like because it all starts with the whole Joe Chill thing, and it appears to be a dream or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see the flashes are like this crazy tornado of the 4.
Oh, yeah.
Barry,
Speed
Wally,
Force.
Bart, and Jay are like in this like trapped Speed Force tornado, and anything it touches like instantly dies. And then as they're kind of flying through like the US, we see it's like a Captain Atom base, but everybody in it is dressed like the unknown soldier, and then they're fighting all like unmen.
Mm-hmm.
They call them animal men, but they're definitely like unmen from Arcane. And we get more. We see like there's like a swamp thing that's all jacked up.
Oh yeah, he takes out those people, no problem.
we see the Bane and Scarecrow Master Blaster.
Yeah, tag team. They tag team Alfred Pennyworth.
Yeah. So what is revealed in that is that whoever's in charge of everything has augmented like all of the villains, and then we get shown his name is Omega, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's somebody in some sort of a bat suit. We have no idea what it is. He doesn't speak. But everyone's like scared shitless of him. And I'm trying to scroll through the end because yeah, Batman goes into the underworld with Wonder Woman and he sees Alfred. I don't see where you were talking about Dick Grayson.
It's at the end. Like it's the last panel when they pull the thing off. It's like instead of the Court of the Owls, it's
oh yes, when they finally get to Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the only city left.
The Court of the Owls. Yeah, it's Dick Grayson, and I guess the Court of the Owls are like, or like the what do they call it? The Talons are like their Gestapo.
Yeah, they're like the.
And the head of them is Dick Grayson, and that's like the end reveal.
Well, there's only one more issue, so hopefully,
yeah,
we'll get some sort of closure.
So yeah, it's either implying that this Omega is either Damian, or it's like another clone of Bruce that's like even more fucked up, or maybe it is just original Bruce.
Yeah, they.
But the Omega thing always leads to Darkseid stuff, so
it might have something to do with like a dark seed possessed Bruce or something, because the only person to talk about Bruce's death so far has been Wonder Woman, and she was like, "You just got ripped up, ripped to shreds," which, like, for Batman, that doesn't seem. It seems fishy, but you know, it could be that's just what happened. He got caught off guard, which
because it's not the normal like Darkseid symbol. It's like kind of bat-like. So it'll be interesting to see. Like maybe it's Bruce got the like took over the power of some of the new gods, because the way Omega looks, he has like there's definitely some new godness to him.
Well, yeah, he's got like those cool future lines. He does cape. Mm-hmm. It's all one imposing figure.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. So this will be the first Black Label book to end, I believe, because I think Damned has like one more issue, or maybe
technically, White Knight ended.
Oh yeah, that's true. White Knight. I keep forgetting that was a Black Label.
Yeah, I didn't realize that till I picked up the hardcover.
Yeah, which the second one, I think the first issue of the second one came out. It was pretty good.
Finished it. I'm like halfway through it.
So, and that's teasing like that Earth's version of Azrael, which is one of my I have a soft spot for Azrael, but at one point there's a giant naked homeless man running around, which is always fun. But
they're on that Black Label.
I think we can move on. So we're gonna do something new tonight. So we're gonna have I guess like a comic book like geek like a comic book debate or geek debate, nerd debate.
Yeah, a nerd debate.
So
all debates are pretty nerdy.
So we're gonna go like total high school debate club rules. And so I came up with the question, so I'm this week's moderator. Everyone's going. I don't know what Ryan is doing. He's battling.
He's taking us to the store.
You're like, I don't even want to be a part of this. I'm driving away.
Yeah.
That's funny because I'm actually in the car right now.
we can
hear you, man.
I'll leave you myself then. Just give me like 5 minutes.
Sorry, all right. Dog. So basically to go over it while Ryan's doing whatever, everybody's going to get 30 seconds. I'll give it 30 seconds to a minute to kind of give their answer and why, and we'll go around. I guess this time we'll have Ryan be last, and then we'll kind of give it up to kind of everybody talk about each other's, why theirs is better, why they like to go after kind of everybody else's argument, kind of debate style. Then I'll ask, any questions I have, and then I will render a decision, and then we can kind of talk about it after and give some other answers that we didn't think were as good. So does anybody, John or Connor, do you want to go first? Preference?
I mean, like, I can go first because I just thought of this off the top of my head. Because originally, like, my pick was going to be Kid Eternity for Teen Titans.
Oh, yeah, I guess I didn't give the question yet. So the question is, who would you swap out from any comic book thing onto a team? It could be from another company, it doesn't matter, except for Avengers and Justice League, because basically everybody's on those, and why? So one character and one character out.
I don't really care who you take off the Teen Titans, because I feel like there's like Kid Devil, any of those like kind of like losery like second tier or third tier Teen Titans, and you put on Kid Eternity because he's a kid who is like called a kid attorney on a team called Teen Titans. I just find that concept is really funny. But then I like realized that Kid Attorney was on a really bad run of Teen Titans, so I feel like that's a disqualification. So instead, my pick would be Batman on the Shadow Pack. The Shadow Pack are the DC like magicians and sorcerers and people who like solve like mysteries through magic. And so that team is historically Nightshade, Zatanna, Blackbriar Thorn, Blue Devil, Detective Chimp. So I would swap out Detective Chimp for Batman because even though I feel like the very big plus of Detective Chimp is he is a world class detective while also being a chimpanzee. I think it'd be fun to have Batman on that team because Batman is a guy who doesn't deal with magic, like unless he's like talking to Zatanna. Because like I'm also like one of those guys that signs up to the ship of Zatanna and Batman. At least as like very good childhood friends who grew up to be both costume crime fighters. It just so happens one is the world's greatest detective and the other one is a stage magician. And I think it's like funny because it's like the idea of like I don't necessarily like also believe in that idea of that Justice League Dark movie where Batman doesn't believe in magic because like he's a sensible guy and he has to be the straight man within the movie, because it's like he's friends with aliens, he's fought angels, his again his childhood friend is a magician, so it's like the idea of magic is not a complete unknown to him, but it's not the world that he lives in. So I think like him trying to solve crimes that are magic in base along with other magic users like is kind of an interesting.
All right, so I would say that's time. So Connor, since Ron's not back yet, you can go next. And so John got about 2 minutes, so you'll have 2 minutes to give your team. Actually, do exactly kind of what John did, give some backstory on the teams, and stuff like that. So, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so my choice was immediately to try and pull someone from another comic book series or universe to a different one, just because I like the transplant idea. And I'm trying to catch up on like the Defenders. I picked up like a bunch of Luke Cage and Iron Fist stuff just because it was on sale on Comixology a while ago, and I haven't had a chance to rip into it. But well, I've looked into it a bit, but I like the idea. Sorry, I like the idea of the Defenders, like these people that take care of the smaller stuff, like the criminal stuff. I don't mean like the Avengers don't or the single superheroes don't, but like the more organized mob fighting stuff, the more ninja stuff, like that. So I'd like to take somebody who's like the more brutish aspect, like Luke Cage, along with somebody a bit more smart assy that you don't really see on that team. So I want to take Hellboy straight from Hellboy before he goes kind of esoteric and godly, and rip him like straight out of the 90s and put him into like one day Marvel and see him like freak out at how casual people are around monsters and everything, because that was the kind of big deal with Hellboy at the time, because there aren't a lot of monsters. So when people see Hellboy, it's like, oh shit, this is a big deal. Now you kind of walk down the street and there's aliens, there's Inhumans, New York is always under attack. It's a whole different world. So I like the idea of like a fish out of water and plopped in somewhere different and still helping to like solve crimes.
And you can have Hellboy team up with Nathaniel Hellstrom, who's a literal Hellboy.
And then you could get something like the Thing to come by and just kind of round out the big, tall, like orange-colored people.
All right. So just for clarity, who would be on your team of Defenders with Hellboy?
Okay, sorry.
Because normally I would say historically, what the Defenders would be Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and then some combination of like Jessica Jones, the Daughters of the Dragon, so like Misty Knight and Colleen Wing.
Mm-hmm.
Who else has been part of it? Like
Elektra.
I think Thing has been with them. Hulk has been with them.
Yeah.
I think She-Hulk has been with them.
God damn, Angel's been on the Defenders, so.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's right. Wasn't Iceman a Defender too?
Wait, I'm thinking
Why
of
not?
Champions. I'm thinking of Champions. That's
Champion-
like
I think-
Hercules and Ghost Rider and Angel and Iceman.
Okay, that
Okay,
sounds
yeah.
pretty cool.
Oh, that book
Yeah.
sucks.
So with
Oh,
Hellboy, who
sorry.
would be your team specifically?
Yeah, so it'd be kind of just the core Avengers or Defenders story, I should say, like the Netflix one. So like Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and a giant red man named Hellboy.
All right. All right. So Ryan, you will have about 2 minutes. So, who are you doing, and who is on your team, and kind of give backstories of both, and then why.
For that came kind of hard. I was always thinking of adding, like, as an example, Spawn to, I don't know, the Justice League. That's kind of mainstream though. So probably, like Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum, just to see that interaction. I'm very curious to see how like a
So, like,
god, yeah,
Like the Midnight Suns kind of thing team.
yeah.
Okay.
Just
So-
watching like Doctor Strange go to like the underworld for like just a regular mission, and just Spawn's just there, just knowing the way. It's kind of hard to explain how I had it in my head. I had meant to get
So you
notes, but I
have-
didn't have
you
enough
have
time
Doctor
today.
Strange. Do you have Doctor Strange in Spawn's universe, or the other way around?
Spawn going to the Marvel universe.
Okay. So, like, say, like, if it's the Midnight Suns, on the team would be like, normally Midnight Suns is what, like, Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, Blade, Morbius. I'm trying to think who else has been on it in the past.
Probably Damon Hellstrom.
Yeah, Dana
Yeah.
Hellstrom. I don't, was his sister or no, Elsa Bloodstone. I only know that because I've been playing Ultimate Alliance 3.
There's like what is it? Jennifer Kale, Werewolf by Night, Jack Russell.
Yes. It's basically Marvel's version of like Justice League Dark, or what was the team name that you said before? Sean?
Shadow Pack.
Shadow Pack, which is basically what
God.
became Justice League Dark.
I love the Midnight Suns. I really wish like someone would kind of revisit Midnight Suns, by the way. But yeah, that's besides the
Oh, and Brother Voodoo has been part of that team too.
Yeah, him and
Although they don't
Scarlet
call
Witch
him-
have been together.
I don't think they call him that anymore. So who would be on the team with Spawn? Like, I guess who would be like the 3 or 4 other people?
It would be mostly those angelic characters. So like Ghost Rider would be one. Nathan, son of Satan, would be on there. A bunch of characters that would like give that weird interaction, like very awkward silence of like we've been to hell before, kind of like a
Like we know what you're going
like
through.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Why am I blanking on her name right now?
yeah, I keep blanking out.
Colossus' sister.
Oh, Magic.
Oh, a witch.
Magic.
Oh,
Yeah,
magic.
Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. God. Magic's part of my new Midnight Suns.
All right. So the switches are, John, you had Batman on. I just forgot the name again.
Shadow Pack.
Shadow Pack. Connor, you had Hellboy with the Defenders, and Ryan, you had Spawn with the Midnight Suns.
Yeah, it was gonna go with John's originally because I wanted to see him with Etrigan, but that was too similar, so I went with Marvel.
All right. So now, I guess among yourselves, and I'll listen, kind of say why you think yours is better than the others, and what problems you have with the other people's stuff. For like a minute. I guess-
I'm sorry. In this case, like I don't know other people well enough. Like I know Spawn, and I know.
Okay. So I guess I will ask a question. So specifically, John, I don't want to come off like really harsh, but like as someone, I love Batman. I feel like he's a little bit pedestrian to pick as a character on a team since he's been on so many teams.
I mean, sure, and like I honestly could have picked the Elongated Man or the Question, which I think the Question may have been like maybe a better kind of pick, but like I'm trying to sell a book here, and
Oh,
like,
that's actually a great name for this. Like, sell me this book.
and
So,
like
yeah.
unfortunately, like putting Elongated Man on the Shadow Pack, it's not gonna like necessarily light the world on fire. I feel like you know, automatically you get the characterization of Batman, so you can write a book with the Shadow Pack and do a little bit more introductory parts for those characters, to engage an audience like with them because you already know Batman.
Mhm.
And I think he also, having the tie to Zatanna and like Zatanna being like the one person he knows like on the team, it's like his like that's the real connection he has to that team.
Yeah,
and
it would be
then
interesting to see like a Constantine come in and be like kind of hurt because Bruce can be like another guy that she's been with. So it's kind of that love triangle thing, as well as the fact I think in most things they have Zatara taught Bruce a lot of stuff, which is how they met, and like gave him kind of his knowledge of the dark arts and that kind of side of the world. So that would be interesting. So Connor, Hellboy with the Defenders. So in your version, he's literally just walking around the Hell's Kitchen and Harlem with them. Isn't he kind of a little OP for most of the guys that the Defenders fight?
I guess really. He's just like he's got a good punch. That's it, man. Like that's his whole thing is he has to in his comics he has to claim his father's power before he become this big massive demon and destroy the world, but he keeps throwing that away, and like he's good with a sword, he finds out later, but he mostly just like spends time punching things and using a giant revolver to miss every shot. So I think if anything, he might be not powerful enough to go with the Defenders.
I do think it would be interesting to see him specifically like with like Daredevil. Like in my head, like he kind of is like if it was him, Luke Cage, Daredevil, and Iron Fist, he's like it would be funny to watch him like fight ninjas.
If I've learned anything from Death Battle, Spawn is incredibly powerful, like stupidly powerful.
Who is
Spawn?
Oh yeah, Spawn is like well. What's funny is if you like look at that team, Spawn and Ghost Rider have lots of similar things. It's like both guys who made this deal with the devil and have the chains and power. It'd be super 90s. Like I feel like that would actually be a hilariously like 90s throwback book with like him and Ghost Rider as basically they're very similar characters. I'm trying like my biggest thing is like I guess is Al Simmons and like Spawn a little too boring of a character, like to not his power set, but to be kind of like hanging around. Like I feel like maybe I haven't read enough Spawn, which is next to nothing. But like I feel like he's almost a Ghost Rider stand-in in many ways. Like what would he bring to the table besides just like his power set, Ryan, to like that team? Did my computer freeze? No.
I hear
Sorry, I had myself muted.
Everybody was muted, and I was just like, oh no.
That's my bad.
Oh, maybe we lost Ryan. So I would say
disqualified.
Big on.
I would say just the one that immediately got my attention the quickest was actually Connor's because it was the most like fish out of water. But argument wise,
well, is it a fish out of water because I took it.
Well, you're both.
We tried, but no, I tried taking it as characters within the same universe, while he took a character from a different company into a different company.
Yeah. It could have been any of those things. To me,
I thought too small.
Yeah, like I actually think I would say the winner for me is Connor, but it's mostly because John, your pick is your pick. It makes so much.
Yeah, man, I sent him a digital 5.
Yeah, your pick makes so much sense, John, that I'm like, how is that book not actually?
I gave it 5 years before it's a book, you know.
Yeah.
I thought that was the point.
That was, and you know what? I would give it to John for that. That was
hoisted by my own petard.
Got too good.
My petard's been hoisted.
What's funny is this original question. When I was thinking about it, my thought was a combination of your two ideas, both of you, because my thought was to have Hellboy on the Justice League Dark.
Oh shit! Really?
Yes, and how interesting it would be to have him be there instead of like
fucking
Blue Devil.
Yeah, like instead of a Blue Devil, or instead of who else is somebody they have there that's kind of like muscle, not Swamp Thing.
Blue Devil's like the.
I would actually say like, instead of Constantine, actually, like he would be interesting as the kind of like guide to walk through stuff. Like he knows spells and everything, so like he would be an interesting, and he's also a smartass, so. He would be an interesting guy to kind of lead them, like show up and like try to run them like BPRD style. And like my idea was like him, Zatanna, like a Swamp Thing, and like a Detective Chimp, and just like him constantly being like looking at Swamp Thing and going like, "Cause it could have been worse." Like
it could be worse.
and just like him and Detective Chimp going at it. So yeah, like I don't know, like Spawn was like I guess I thought of those two characters, both Hellboy and Spawn, and like the horror teams on at both companies, the big two. I just prefer the team at DC a little bit better, the Justice League Dark team over the Midnight Suns. But there is definitely like a lot of interesting ways to go. Did you guys have any other like swap outs that you had thought of, or no? Okay.
Yeah, no, that was pretty much like the best I could go with.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like I had a couple other ones I thought were interesting, but now I lost them. Oh, who the fuck was it? It was somebody on the Guardians, and I can't remember who it was.
Add Scott Pilgrim to the Guardians. Just
it was somebody from it was somebody from DC, and I can't remember who, like some space person.
Got add Steven Stills and Titans because they need that kind of sass.
But so Connor, it is up to you to come up with another kind of a debate topic for next time.
Okay. All right.
And I will write down. So you are 1-0.
1-0. All right. Go me. Starting out strong.
You're the champion. So
first.
I think you are the inaugural champion. So I think that just about does it for us. So we want to do a quick round of plugs before we head out.
Yeah, sure. I'll start this off. You can find me on Instagram. I'm at maybe Connor. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Question Connor. And if you want to find my writings, sometimes I post them online at thelosthorror.wordpress.com, where other people who sometimes are on the show, like Alan or Lou, I think you've posted there before too. So
yes,
everybody's kind of had their fingers in the pot mostly. And yeah, that's it.
John,
you want to go next?
Yeah, you can find me at John JOHN _FN_ Seiler SEILER on Twitter and Instagram, where I talk about my work shit or cartoons I'm watching or me being frustrated with Overwatch. That's about it.
All right, and you can check out some of the other shows. So you have Smallville Chronicles. We have one more episode till we're done with season 4. And and check out the Phantom Zone Prime shows. We've been watching Legion and reviewing that, which is one of the craziest fucking shows in existence. The next one we're going to do, Jason Mantzoukas was on episode, I think 6, like the entire thing, which was fucking crazy.
Are you talking about Hey Nog Man?
On what?
It's like a comedy Bang Bang thing.
Oh, I mostly know him from How Did This Get Made, which they make a couple of references to in the episode, which is hilarious.
Rad.
And then check out, and then you have Legion of Tunes. That's part of Los Horror, so go to loshorror.wordpress.com. Check out all the stuff. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and for God's sakes, tell a friend. And we will catch you guys next time. Adios.
I love you.
Don't let the door hit you or the good Lord split you.
Welcome to the Phantom Zone.